All right, let's start the Q&A for the pre-order incentive, the purchase incentive as well for From the Grave, the
Okay.
last book in the Arcana Chronicles. So if you're seeing this, it's because you registered for it. So welcome and thank you for buying and reading the book. First of all, I would like to say congratulations on finishing the series. I know this book was very hard to write and it took a lot out of you.
Yes.
So
It was the
congratulations.
hardest.
It
It
was
was the
the
hardest.
hardest.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was very, I think you I don't even have word. I think it was perfect. It was unexpected for me anyway, but I loved it. And I think you did a tremendous job. And
Thank you.
so
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you.
I will also like to say that if you're seeing this and you haven't read the book, this will contain spoilers. So if you haven't read the book yet and you don't want to know anything, maybe watch this later on because we will talk about it in details. All right. So I think readers from everything I've seen, and we've had a lot of great feedback, like people love it, but I think the ending is what surprised people the most. The
Right.
fact that Evie ends up choosing both at the end. And
Yes.
we would like people would like to know if that was always your original ending that you had planned from the beginning, because I remember you saying that you had an ending planned for a long time. So was that the original ending or did that change?
It changed. The original ending was Evie between two graves, sitting between two graves. Jack is one grave, and Eric was the other grave, and one was her past and one was her future. And it, I wrote it. It works. It's a functional ending, but
Mhm.
uh, it was not satisfying to me. I was not satisfied with this ending, and so uh, I wrote Jack's death scene years ago before I'd even finished Endless Night. And
Oh,
I was,
wow.
yeah, and I thought, I'm not ready to let him go and to have him be dead forever as a character.
So did he die young in the first?
He died, and he was about 30. Evie
Okay.
and Jack had a few years. He dies of a bagman bite.
Okay.
And he takes her out, and they have the day that he promised in Dead of Winter.
Oh my God, that would have
They
been
are out the
terrible.
window and the cypress trees, and it's exactly how he
Oh, the
described it.
date. Yeah, the date he said like they would have if the flash hadn't happened. Oh my
Yes, except for
God.
there's no radio station, but other than that, everything's the same. And they go out, and then he comes home, and they come home, and he cooks for her all the dishes that they had talked about, and then he asks her for a poison kiss because he's been bitten by a bagman. And I know, no,
This
it
gives
was
me chills and it makes
it
me
was
want to cry. Oh, the
yes,
shock.
the shock. I know. I could not do it to him. I could not do this to this character, and it didn't make sense in the. That's not true. I take that back. I could do it to him, and I
Yeah,
and I, and I intended to, but it didn't make sense to for the entire world because at 10 years, New Dawn after the apocalypse has
yeah,
ended, why are there still bagmen? You
yeah,
either save the world or you don't. And to me, if you still have bagmen in the world, it's not the world that they fought for. It's not the
yeah.
world that they wanted. So he can't die of a bagman bite, even though that had been foreshadowed, and I had put in a lot of mentions about that. But it did not make sense in the end, and it was one of those realizations, like, oh my gosh, I'm glad we've thought about this now because that could have come back and bitten us. But I did
Yeah.
not want there to be bagman in the end. So,
That makes
but
sense.
yeah, so that was his end, and then she would go, and we wouldn't see the future, but you would know that Eric would be her future,
Yeah.
and it was okay. It was written, and I could have gone with it, but I also wanted there to be more emphasis on Matthew because tarot is the fool's journey, and I really wanted that to come back, um and then when Evie had children,
Mhm.
this puts a completely different dynamic into this love story, and uh and so then I started thinking, the conventions of the genre are that the love triangle is resolved for a pairing.
Yeah.
There's the protagonist and the one love. And I got mad about it because I didn't want to be constrained like that. And I just
Hmm.
got really pissed. I was like, I want her to have both. And why can't she have both? This is 2023. We're gonna she's having both. And so that at the very end, when Evie is defying everyone to say something, I mean, I feel like I was channeling a lot of my pure outrage that she couldn't have both, that was what's expected.
A
And
lot of people commented on that and say like, I love the fact that even if you personally don't like it as a reader, she's telling you like, I don't care what you think and I'll have both. And
I thought I was going to take some heat. Yeah.
yeah,
I was like, you know what? Bow up and face it. But this is the ending. This is the ending that this book has to have. And I will take the heat because this is the ending that I want to reread. And I'll never forget, I wrote other endings. Sometimes uh, reviewers will say, well, I wish she had done it this way. I did. I did a
yeah.
lot of the endings that people might imagine, and they weren't as impactful. They
Hmm.
didn't punch you in the gut and rip out your heart. And so I really wanted, well, that's my job. That's my job.
I do.
I
I love
my
it.
job. I have to do my job. So I wrote several, and I would come home and I would, or come from the office and I would tell Sweet, I wrote an ending. And he's like, is it the ending? And I was like, it's not the ending. It's
It's not this one.
not the
So,
ending, but I wrote it
so
and it go.
sorry,
So
please keep
no,
going.
and then when I wrote this ending, I showed him the tablet. I showed him the ending and I said, read this.
Yeah.
And he he I'm sure he was wondering, why didn't you wait for me to come out of the room? We can talk about this. But you want me to read this right now? Okay. And he's known me long enough to play along. And
Yeah.
so he read it. And he shined when he was finished, he shined the laptop on his arm because he had goosebumps.
Oh
And
wow.
that's when I knew. And then when he was editing it, that was when he said, fuck me, at the end. But
Oh,
that's when
that
I
was
knew
no,
the
I
ending.
think it's the perfect ending. Like I would cry just I thinking about it would make me cry because I think it's so to me it was unexpected. I you had told me like they were going to die, blah blah blah. So I knew what to expect, but you
Mhm.
didn't tell me the end. Like you I didn't know how it was going to end. And I thought it was so beautifully written and
Thank you.
just it felt perfect because I feel like Evie would never have been happy if she didn't have
Never,
both anyway.
never. No. In
So
Dead of Winter, I mean, I was already feeling this way with Dead of Winter. She actually makes the comment that Mel would tell her to keep both of them and collect them like
yeah.
handbags. And I was really feeling that way. I was like, can I get away with this? And then towards the end, I was like, I might not be able to get away with this, but I'm still going to do it.
No,
So
I think honestly I do think some people aren't necessarily happy with how it ended, but the majority of people are. And I think if they look back in the series, you also did you write Soul
yes,
with that purpose to
yes.
see how readers would react? Yeah.
Well, to kind of just show it how it's done. And if you think about it, based on what happened with this apocalypse, it makes sense that there would be one woman with two men or three
Hmm.
men or four men. When they get to Jubilee, there's one woman with four men.
Yeah, that's true.
And because there aren't a lot of women, and I think women can pick and choose and say, yes, I will have two. Yes,
Yeah.
this works.
No. I
You provide certain aspects and you provide certain aspects, and combined, I'm a happy lady. So
yeah.
it's just, yeah, she had to just make that decision. And I think all of the torture that she went through gave her the confidence, or just the not giving a fuck anymore. Like, this
Hmm.
is what I want, and I'm gonna cut the ribbon in half, or I'll give you both back your ribbon. Like,
That scene with the ribbon, oh, it's I love it so much. So much.
yeah,
It's
thank you.
epic.
Well, she made up her mind, and she deserved it. She deserves both, and I
Yeah,
really believe
that was my thought as well. I thought, they've been through so much in their previous lives.
that. Yes,
She suffered alone for 20 years. She
yes,
just went through so much loss and suffering. And now
yeah,
she has a second chance and she has both. So like why would she choose to go through all that again, to through
right,
that pain of having to choose? Like to me it
yeah.
made sense. It really did. So
when she says perfect for me can't be bested, I mean, that says it all. She will always be miserable without the other one. And
Mm-hmm.
so there is no happily ever after for Evie without both. It must. And there are other aspects of the choice that she makes, and the fact that Jack reincarnates. There are other aspects with the apocalypse and reincarnation. When he does reincarnate, and he is not an arcana, it it's also indicates that her children will reincarnate, which I thought was very important.
Yeah.
You know,
So that
so
that was a question some readers had, because I think it's pretty well explained, but I think some readers were still confused about the fact that since he's not an arcana,
mm-hmm,
how was he able to
mm-hmm.
reincarnate?
He's the proof that we all reincarnate, that they're on the carousel together, that her children will be, her mom is her reincarnated mom. It doesn't mean that their existences will follow the same path. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean that they, Eric will die young or Jack will live to be a certain age. That's not set in stone.
Yeah.
But what it does mean is that we have reincarnated, everyone does. Everyone
Okay.
reincarnates. Yeah.
Except Matthew.
Except Matthew, and his was the sacrifice.
Oh, I thought that was beautiful, but that was harsh, because you don't know what really, you don't know what to think of Matthew up until this point. I feel like, I mean,
Yeah.
throughout the last few books, you think, is he good? Is he bad? Is he, and the fact that he had known all this time that he was going to spend 800 years alone, and suffer, and just, oh,
The longest interim was his. The longest time between games was his game, was his life. And yeah, that was so hard to write. That was
so did you always know that Matthew was like in the plot, like when you started the series, did you always know that the sacrifice was going to be Matthew, or did
yes.
that change as well?
Yes, it did change, but I wanted Matthew to sacrifice because he does see far and he is good. And
Yeah.
so if you feel that way, if you're a good person and you can see the future, and you love others, you will sacrifice for them. And so he was going to sacrifice, but in one iteration he sacrifices to so that Evie can win. And as I was writing these books, I'm like, that's not what a friend
Yeah.
would do. This is
That's
not what you want to. It would be damning your friend.
yeah.
And so there was this scene that I wrote, and he actually sacrifices himself. He knows what's going to happen. He sacrifices himself so that she can win. And she's begging him not to, but I'm like, you wouldn't beg him not to either, because you
Yeah.
wouldn't want him to go through this. So the two of them are both wanting to sacrifice for the other, and it just became so convoluted. And so what are we fighting for? Because no one wants to win this game. It's a game that no one wants to win. And so I had to change it completely.
Yeah.
Sacrifice remains, but the way the sacrifice ends up being made is different.
Yeah.
So
Well, it makes
yeah,
more sense, though. It does. It does make more sense. And it's even more impactful, the fact that he was so old and he still chose to sacrifice himself and spend all those like, it's just, oh, Matthew. It made me cry so hard.
I
It's
know.
so
I
beautiful.
when I was writing it, and then you have to edit it and edit it and edit it, and I was playing that song over and over and over, and
And
oh,
just crying, tears.
oh yes, just Kleenex everywhere. It just that was a tough one. That was a tough one.
I bet it was a tough one. So another question I had was, do you it just came up to me, but was Eric always supposed to die in the battle with Richter?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was. And I played with the idea of him defeating Richter and
Yeah.
Evie defeating Fortune. And it did not work. It was wrong. It just was wrong. It's like I can't explain it. It felt so off. And it Evie had to defeat Richter. The
Yeah.
Emperor and the Empress. It had to
Yeah.
be. So yeah.
And I will say, I think Eric's death scene is one of my favorite in the book, because it's heartbreaking and it's horrifying, because he dies in a pretty terrible way. Like, it's pretty terrible. but it's so well written. And the fact that you think you have a 1 second of like hope because you
Yeah.
think, oh, he has his helmet and he's back on the ground and you think it's all
Yes.
good. And then no, it's not. And it's
Oh,
just so, it's so brilliant, but it's so terrible at the same time.
well,
Um,
yes, he lost his luck. It's gone. So he had to die like that. Like even after she died, I was like, does her luck manipulation still hold? And then I realized that when she absorbs all of his luck, it's gone. And she
yeah,
did that before she died. So he has
yeah,
his luck is gone. Fortune is not on his side. And so he yeah,
yeah,
he
yeah.
he's doomed as soon as she touches him. Just like she was doomed as soon as he touched her. He was
Yeah,
doomed as soon as she touched him. So one of my things falling there. Yeah, so that's I wanted that to be plus the weight, the touch of death. What's the one thing that can defeat the touch of death? I mean, her
yeah,
touch of fortune did, and
yeah.
his touch of death defeated her touch of fortune. So
That
and
makes sense.
I played with the idea of those two facing off a lot because I liked the idea that there's this contact that either absorbs life or absorbs fortune,
Yeah,
and so they seem like good powers to play off of each other.
that's true.
Yeah.
Hmm. So I'll talk about the ending a bit more and then we can move on. But about the ending, do you think eventually Jack and Eric could fall in love as well? Or do you think they would just share Evie without,
I don't want to say. I want the reader to bring
yeah, to have
her
their
own
own opinion?
I want the reader to bring their own experience into this. And I know I so very clearly what I believe happens in the future. It's as clear as you are to me right now. It's very clear what happens in my mind. And there are little hints, and but it
Hmm.
really is up for the reader to decide. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
But you know what? If you see me at a conference or at a book signing and you put 2 glasses of wine in me, I'll be like, let me tell you,
Let me
this is
tell you everything.
what's in it. Yeah.
Wink, wink. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Sorry.
Well, it's true. I mean,
I know.
it
I
speaks the
know.
truth.
I know. I love it. So clarify something as well, because
Okay.
I think some readers also were a little confused about. So Jack is not Arcana, right?
He's not Arcana.
He's
No.
not.
No,
Okay.
he's
No, that I mean, to me, I loved it as well because it just says he's extraordinary, and I think that's so powerful too. That can because he was just human, and
yes.
I really like that because it shows a different. You can just be a regular human being and still be an amazing, powerful. Um,
Yes, his background, all the trials that he went through, and so much heartache and
yeah,
hardships. And without those heartaches and hardships, he could have been defeated by them, but he rose above it and became this extraordinary man. And that's what I really wanted to show is it's not supernatural. This is
yeah.
something. Yeah.
I think something that Eric says in one of the books, he says that he sees something in Jack or something's wrong or something. I can't remember what it is.
Something's off. Something's
Yeah,
not right.
something's off. Yeah,
Yeah, and that could have been a reach for Eric because how can Jack be so amazing? And in the end, when Eric writes the letter to him and he says, "Of all the humanity I've witnessed, you are the best of us," and that's what he was seeing. He was seeing that Jack was extraordinary, and that and
you are worthy. Like this letter. Oh my God! And the fact that he had like looked at it so much, he was worn out. Oh my
oh,
God!
that was now you're gonna make me tear up because gosh, that was so
That was
tough.
beautiful. That was amazing. I loved it so
That's what he
much.
saw in him. And he didn't want to see that. He didn't want to see that Evie had made an incredible choice in choosing Jack. He wanted Jack to not be a good guy. And he wanted Jack to definitely not be extraordinary. Eric's extraordinary. Everything about him is extraordinary. And he's very secure in his uniqueness as the oldest person on earth
Yeah.
and wise and learned. And then all of a sudden he's out on the road with Jack, seeing things that can't be right. Surely this is not the bravest man I've met or the best man
Yeah.
I've met. Surely he cannot be. And Eric's smart enough. He was smart enough to know that that there was something there and that Evie had
Okay.
chosen wisely. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That makes sense. Wow. You're smart.
Well, thank you.
Wow. Um, so readers wanted to know if you will ever share or ever write, maybe in the future, Eric's letter to T.
Maybe,
Because
maybe.
that's something we didn't get to read. And I think, yeah.
No,
Hmm.
and I played with putting it in there, but for so many letters that it becomes, I I felt like they were losing some of their impact.
Oh,
I
yeah.
wanted to
Hmm.
highlight, and also the things that Eric would tell T, he lived. There's not much greater than don't don't do a deed if you won't speak about it. A lie is a
Yeah.
curse
Yeah.
himself. I mean, he was saying these things all along in previous books that I felt like the reader could kind of glean what was important to tell his
Yeah.
son. Yeah. That
Okay.
and be good to your mother because she's been through a lot. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Be nice to your mom.
Be nice to your mom
Oh.
because she's been through the ringer. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. People love Eric. We're saying that at the end, he didn't get to have Evie for a long time in his life, and then he died, and then Evie got to spend 36 years with Jack, and then obviously he died, but then she chooses both, and so at the end, Eric has to share, even though he didn't really get her to himself.
Well, Eric, it was so he had suffered for so long and so many years that he was ready to sacrifice everything for 7 hours with her. And he didn't get 7 hours with her. He didn't get 7 days. He didn't get 7 weeks, 7 months. He was able to have, and I think that when you know that there's an expiration date on the time that you have with someone, you live it more fully. And Eric, for all that he's deaf, has he knows how to live fully, and he would have packed every moment in. And he says that in the book. He says, I've been telling her goodbye all this time. And
Stop,
he
you're gonna
has
make me cry.
been. And he has been. So, but also, I don't I don't think I think Eric at the very end uh is going to be delighted to not be deaf and to have
Oh,
Evie there
yeah.
on the dock with him.
Be able to
And
touch
Jack is,
people. And
yes, I mean this is a whole new life for him.
I feel like him and Jack had formed a really, really strong friendship as well. Like they were really close friends at the end. So I think they would be happy to see each other again, knowing
Yeah.
what they've been through. I feel like you're grateful.
Yes. I mean, Jack looked up to Eric, and he didn't want to, just like Eric didn't want to just witness this extraordinary man in action. Jack did not want to understand that Eric was extraordinary too, and that,
Yeah.
yeah, and they definitely admired each other,
Oh, yeah.
and they
That
depended on each other. Yeah, and they depended
yeah,
on each
yeah.
other. Yeah,
I always
Eric
say that.
never,
Yeah.
yeah,
Sorry.
he had never had a friend other than his father, and Jack was his best friend. So, yeah.
Um, about the memories at the end. So it's pretty clear that at the end, well, obviously Evie has her memories back, and Eric is implied to also get his memories back because he's touching his head and all of that. Does Jack have his memories back?
What do you think? Do you
I
think he
think
does?
he does. Yes, he does.
Well,
Don't look at me like that.
I know. I'm saying Cersei said, I did the spell for everyone in my alliance.
In the alliance.
Right?
Stop. No, he does. He totally does. He totally has his memories back. Stop it.
I want readers to take away some things for
Yeah.
themselves,
No,
but
I agree. I
yeah,
agree. I agree. So on that note, readers can take away whatever they want. How did Lark die?
I will never say.
Do
I
you
will never say.
know? Like, do you have an idea? You do?
It's not that big of a secret. It's just I think it hurts worse to not know. She died late at night.
Yeah.
She died alone in the woods. And
Oh, stop it.
I want it to hurt. And she went out alone knowing the risks and the freedoms. And she chose the risks to experience the freedoms.
Mm-hmm.
So I really want the reader to wonder what happened to her.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it hurts more. You're right. You're
Yeah.
completely right. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, another question that I think would have a similar answer is a lot of people were wondering what really happened to Evie's dad. Did Evie's grandma kill him, or did he just disappear? Like, was it natural? Was it not natural?
Was it natural? Was it not natural? Her grandmother says, that he shouldn't have been so close to the cane crusher, and but she could have been on drugs, and not
Hmm.
could have been delirious. Um, I think that's one of those, because if you believe Evie's grandmother killed Evie's father, it colors everything that her grandmother told her. It
Yeah,
colors everything, and I want readers to wonder,
yeah,
uh, what was Gran evil? Was she not evil? And if she did kill the father, did she do it because she thought it would save Evie's life? There are ramifications for this, because
yeah,
if she believes that if Evie doesn't embrace her Empress powers and stay in Haven, she mentions that her parents were going to move up north with Evie. So if Evie is not at Haven, then she's in jeopardy.
yeah,
So did the grandmother do what she had to do to save Evie? There's a lot of different things that you can think about
yeah.
there. Yeah.
But I like the idea of letting people, like letting readers wonder, because I don't think you should reveal everything, like every little
No,
detail in a book. I think it's also important to have little things that leave people like, okay,
right.
yeah,
Because
I
you can
like
go
that.
back and reread everything Gran says in a different light.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Will you ever write a short story or a short scene about their reunion at the end of the book?
The
That was,
reunion?
yeah, like the at the very end when they are reincarnated.
I don't know. I I mean, I thought about doing things like adding this or adding that, or taking away
Hmm.
this, taking away that. And I've reread it now that the fire has cooled a little bit, and I don't want to touch it. I don't want to,
Yeah,
I think that it would dilute a lot of the impact and the
yeah,
emotion if I did. And I don't want to say too much. I want readers to think about this. I want my fondest wish is that it haunts readers. I want it to haunt readers. That's
oh,
what I
it
want.
does. 100%. a hundred
And
percent.
I mean, it's the ending that I wanted. Um, it's the ending that I wanted for them.
Yeah. No, I love it. But what about the other? So people were also wondering, maybe it's going to be the same answer, but what about Finn and Lark and Gabe and Jules and maybe like even Kentark and his wife and
Mm-hmm.
Cersei and her husband? Will all those people also? I mean, obviously not the Arcana, but will the mortals also reincarnate and find
Yes,
each other
they will.
again?
Yes, I
Okay.
believe that. Yeah, I believe that. I don't want to come out and say that they absolutely will find them, but they found them in the previous life, and
Yeah.
so I believe that they find them in this life. They're definitely out there.
Yeah.
They're on the carousel together. They're definitely out there. So you just got to go and look, and with their memories intact, maybe
Oh
they'll
yeah.
know where to look.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. I like knowing that. There is there is a scene at one point where Kentark is talking with Jack and they're talking about what could bring Evie back from the Red Witch if she was to fight Richter.
Right.
And Kentark just pauses, like what could bring her back, because he's saying to Jack, like, you barely brought her back last time. And he's
Mm-hmm.
pausing in the middle of his sentence and he says he figured out a puzzle. And some
Right.
readers were wondering what that puzzle was, because you never really was super clear about that.
Right. Well, it was so there was a lot of speculation about T's purpose. And I think Kentark was the first to see it. Kintark was the first to see that the fate of the world could hinge on Evie, her reaction and her interaction with her son.
Yeah.
So, she sees herself reflected in T's eyes, and Kintark was the first to realize maybe
that's why he went back, even though he was dying and he had no hands.
Right.
You took his other hand.
And the reason I did that was because he's still gonna reach for Issa.
Oh, yeah. Stop it. Stop it. I have goosebumps.
I'm like teared up. Oh gosh.
Oh my god, Kesley. So that's what I thought. I thought he thought of T and thought, okay, so T might be the solution to bring Evie back. And that's why he went and got him, even though he was dying.
Matthew is affecting everyone's lives. And he's planning this. I mean, Kintark with his military mind would be the first to see these patterns. And so he's putting it together that that Matthew did this for a reason. Matthew put all the chessboard pawns on the board, and that's the reason.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
He does have a purpose. Yeah, not just to protect Evie from Paul, although he did that as well.
Yeah, he did that. Yeah.
Stuff. You gotta have fun when you're crying over and over and over.
Oh yeah, guys. Kresley cried a lot writing this book. She did.
I cried so much. I think my family thought I was going crazy up here, just sobbing. And Swede would come in, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, what's happening?
Going on? What are you even doing to yourself?"
Yeah, he came in one time, and I couldn't even talk. The music's blaring, and I just turn around, I just look at him like, I'm gutted. It just, but a lot of it too is just letting go of these characters, this series, and that's always hard. But
how does it feel to know that you'll never revisit them?
Sad, so sad, because I loved them. They were in my head for more than 13 years, and I did love them, and I don't say never on the series, like the minors, and just the world. I would love to, like, at the end, there's the teenagers that were surrounded by Bagman at the very end. I was like, I want to write their story. I want to see them out in this cityscape, this apocalyptic cityscape, trying to survive and haunted by Bagman at every turn, speed freezes, and that would be exciting.
I agree. Never say never.
Never say never.
Yeah. But this was the end of a chapter, and this was so it was emotional.
Now I'm focusing on Immortals After Dark and new series. I do want to write 2 new series.
Very exciting. Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. Of course.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.